Hi, good afternoon. My name is Karen Wynn. I am coming to you from sunny Brisbane. Apologies I couldn't be with you there in person. Hopefully for the next one, it's a little bit easier to cross borders. Whoever thought that was going to be a problem, hey? I'm here with you today to share with you a little bit about RACQ's journey. I've recently moved into the role of General Manager Member Value Proposition. Prior to that, I was in the role of General Manager Member Strategy and Experience. And I was in that role for about 4 years. And really one of the core areas of focus for myself and my team during that period was to develop and refine and embed our CX strategy. So I wanted to share a little bit about that journey and talk about how that has really helped improve outcomes for our members and our staff in the contact centre quite specifically. So I might just start with a little bit about RACQ. RACQ is a heritage brand. We have been around for about 115 years. And for those of you outside of Queensland, if you haven't heard of us, I would compare us to the Automobile Club or the Mobility Club in your state. So NRMA in New South Wales, for example, RACV in Victoria, and so forth. And RACQ operates across 3 verticals, being assistance, insurance and banking, in addition to motoring and travel. But really, broadly, those 3 verticals are the areas that we operate in. Now, I'm just going to share my screen with you, so bear with me for a moment. Right, so what I would like to do is start with sharing some information with you about our CX pillars, or our MX pillars in our case. So if you are in an organisation with multiple verticals, multiple products and services and channels, having a horizontal view of your customer is absolutely critical. And having a CX vision or a CX strategy that clearly articulates what that target customer experience is meant to be is really helpful when you have different people owning and running different channels and different service delivery through different areas of the business. At RACQ, we've developed what we call our member experience pillars. That's 3 pillars: ease, trust, and empathy, that really provide the guardrails for how we design experience and how we measure experience across the whole organisation. And as I said, these guardrails are really important when you do have your frontline teams or service delivery occurring in multiple parts of the organisation, and particularly when parts of your value chain are supported by external providers as well. And that is certainly true of any general insurer or health insurer and a number of other organisations as well. Now, these pillars aren't rocket science. As you can see, they're fairly logical. They feel self-explanatory, but it actually took quite a lot of work to get to this point. And when we developed these pillars, we did it hand in hand with our members. And we started through developing a deep understanding of our complaints data and key root causes of complaints, our negative feedback from our members, our voice of customer data, and of course other market research we had on hand. We've also quite extensively looked at what our competitors were doing, because obviously what competitors are doing in market, and even people who aren't your competitors globally, are setting the expectations for your customers. So we looked at that as well. And lastly, we spent a fair amount of time with our frontline staff running focus groups with them. And I would absolutely encourage everyone to spend time with your frontline teams if you're doing anything in the CX or the customer strategy space. So through that process, we developed a set of pillars. We then ran a number of focus groups with our members, and those pillars continued to evolve a lot more until we landed where we are today. With we make things easy, we make things simple, we build trust, and we show empathy. So what this whole process has really demonstrated to me, I guess, is 2 things. is one is the importance of aligning your organizational goals to your customer goals. When we started with our experience principles, we didn't realize this at the time, but they were a little internally focused. And these did shift once we started to engage directly with our members on them. So your goals have to be aligned to the goals of your customers, otherwise you will never meet their expectations. And the second thing that this has really demonstrated for me is the importance of just getting the basics right. And if I think about saving you time, for example, which is one of the core attributes of making things easy for our members, that was an area that our members and consumers more broadly continually spoke about not having their expectations met in that place, and then wanting organisations to make things easier for them to save them time rather than the reverse. What these pillars also do is really frame up a consistent set of measures. So once we had our pillars defined, we then spent time determining what our key CX measures should be across all journeys, so at an interaction level as well as at a relationship level. And what this does is obviously enable internal benchmarking and comparison, as well as external comparison, and ultimately helps with setting and delivering consistent experience across the whole business. We have 4 key measures that we have across all journeys. They are NPS, CSAT, effort and trust, and I'll speak a little bit more about those soon. And then we have a number of service level metrics that are tailored to specific interaction types. So for example, the service attributes that are most important to a claims interaction might be a little different to the updating your address via the contact centre. And I think probably my last note here in terms of measures is that I would highly recommend you don't rely on just one measure. I think it's really important to have a balanced set of measures. One of my favourite books of all time, professional books, is The Effortless Experience by Dixon, Taman and DeLisi. And when this book was written at the time, it was actually quite groundbreaking because it challenged the idea that delighting your customers was critical to build loyalty. And instead it proposed that to build loyalty, what you actually needed to do was remove friction and remove pain points. And when I think about this, I really believe that if you can't get the simple things right for your customers, why would they trust you with anything more complicated? So if you can't get something simple right, why would they trust you to help them buy a home, or to help you with finding the right insurance to protect their family? In terms of building an effortless experience, for RSQ specifically, the key attributes that we have identified for designing and delivering an effortless experience are saving you time, which I mentioned before, providing simplicity, and choice and curated options. Now, the choice and curated options is quite an interesting one, and the curation part is really important. Your customers expect you to know them. So if you have collected a lot of data about who they are and their family and the products they hold, etc., they will expect you to use that to tailor offers and options to them. So being able to provide curated options and offer choice, but not too much choice, so it's a balance, is really, really key when looking to build an effortless experience to members. In terms of measuring this, one of our primary measures is custom effort. We just use the standard customer effort measure, and it sits alongside NPS. And I think for me, this is actually one of the most important measures we have at a transactional level. So far more important than NPS, for example, because effort is a much better indicator of the experience that person has had in that specific context. And what this does is allow you, if you've got a fairly mature voice of customer program, it really allows you to diagnose problems, for example, in channel or with particular products. So at RACQ, for example, we will look at that member effort score at a channel level, and then for particular products within particular channels. And that allows us to really focus in on where we think the biggest opportunities are. And it could be anything from, a problem with the way staff are communicating or selling a product, or it could be, it could point to a need to simplify how we communicate information about a product in our marketing execution, or it could indicate that our product rules need to be simplified. So it could indicate a whole range of things, but it really helps you know where to focus your efforts on. Lastly, I think with member effort, it really helps drive cultural change and exec buy-in. I've used this measure to link what, say, execs in group technology are doing or in finance are doing, to really link it through to the experience our members are having in the contact centre, and also our staff experience. Those roles are very influential in driving decisions on investment and technology spend, which has a direct impact on how easy it is for your customers to engage with you in the contact centre. Lastly, I would just say, when you are looking at prioritising on effort, make sure you're looking at both impact and frequency, and obviously prioritise those things that are both high impact for your members and have a high likelihood of occurring. So I'm going to talk a little bit about trust, and for me, trust really is the basis for all connection. And you think about that in your personal life as well as your professional life, how important trust is. And whilst trust has always been important, it's becoming increasingly important post-COVID, and really being seen as a must-have for organisations if they want to thrive and to grow. And trust can have this amazing power to truly elevate your brand and drive competitive advantage and drive growth. So at RACQ, we've started speaking about this notion of extreme trust, on the notion of trustworthiness. And it's really important, and it'll be different for each organisation, but to unpack what trust means for you. And trust is far more than reputation alone, or ethics alone, or credibility alone. And trust is something that is granted by your customers to you. And for me, there's a couple of key attributes that are really important to focus on. The first one is really competence or capability. So that is the ability of your organisation to actually deliver on the promise you have made in market. If you can't deliver on promises you've made, you will absolutely undermine trust. The second one is, of course, ethical behaviour. So really a desire by your organisation and a demonstration that you will do the right thing. Lastly, or thirdly, of course, the promises that you are making in market to your customers must be aligned to the goals that your customers have. Doesn't matter how good your capability is and how ethical you are, if your goals aren't aligned to your customers, you won't drive relevance and you won't drive growth. So we do measure trust at RACQ. It's a fairly simple measure, and we measure it across all journeys alongside NPS, effort, and customer sat. And we simply ask our members on a scale of 0 to 10 the extent to which they trust RACQ. We consistently achieve scores above 90%. So we tend not to measure distrust. But if you are an organisation who has a lower trust rating, I would strongly encourage you to explore measuring distrust as well as trust. And Roy Morgan have done some really interesting work in this space if you want to look a little bit more about distrust, measuring distrust, or even creating a net trust score similar to Net Promoter Score. We then conduct driver analysis on the trust results to identify which service attributes are most important in driving that trust outcome. So for RACQ, those attributes are reputation, reliability, consistency, and empathy. And then we simply design those elements of trust into all of our experiences end to end. We monitor those, we measure them, and we continually improve. And in our assisted channel, so for example, in the contact centre, we build our coaching and our QA programs in a way that embeds trust as a measure into those aspects of the contact centre development of our staff. If you want to do some more reading on trust, I would recommend starting with the Edelman Trust Barometer, which is a really interesting read. So lastly, our third pillar is empathy. And in our contact centres and in our face-to-face channels as well, we also measure empathy using a simple 0 to 10 scale. And again, I think this is a really important to measure at an interaction level in both your digital channels as well as your contact centre and assisted channels. Of course, asking the question slightly differently for digital, because it really talks to the role the consultant had in that interaction. So it helps you, ease tends to talk a little bit more about process and technology. Empathy speaks more about the way the consultant will support your customers and deal with your customers. So in addition to asking a question in our Voice of Customer survey specifically about empathy, we also measure and monitor a number of service level attributes. So this includes how well did the consultant understand your individual needs? Did the consultant take a genuine interest? And in our face-to-face channels, we really want to know, did the concierge make you feel welcomed as you entered the store? All of this data is available to contact centre consultants themselves, to their team leaders, to contact centre managers, and they form an important part of the coaching program, which I'll speak a bit more about soon. We also use empathy maps where we need to support development of training and change material for our consultants. And to give you a more tangible example, when we were establishing our hardship team, our financial hardship team at the onset of COVID, these empathy maps became really important to help our consultants put themselves in the place of the customer's shoes and understand when they're saying or doing certain things, this means that they're thinking and feeling certain things. And off the back of this empathy map, we would then suggest certain responses and coach and train staff to respond in a way that helped actually meet the needs of the members within the context of them feeling quite vulnerable, having a hardship conversation. So we've spoken about RACQ's experience pillars. As I said, they really provide the guardrails for experience design and service delivery across the organisation. And that ultimately ensures our members, regardless of which channel they use, which product, are getting a consistent customer experience. I want to talk a little bit about using Voice of Customer data and Voice of Customer program, because that plays a really important role in how you embed and execute and monitor and continually improve. So we spoke a little bit before about getting your measures right. Invest the time you need to get them right before you start jumping in and surveying your members, because you're going to want some consistency in your historical measures over time. Make sure you're building repeatable and scalable processes and automate as much as you can. This will enable your team to spend time on the real value adds, which is, of course, how you translate these insights into action. Make sure that you are democratizing your data. There's no point in having a rich set of insights if the people in channel, and particularly in your contact center, don't know anything about them. So we have built a set of dashboards. They are updated daily, which is automatic. So not quite real time, but close. So updated daily with the most recent survey responses and data from our Voice of Customer surveys. And there's a broad number of drill downs as well. So if I'm a contact center manager, for example, I can log in and I can have a look at how my centre's performing overall. I can then compare each team with each other, and I can compare that against different product sets, different channels within my centre. So, for example, compare chat compared to voice. And importantly, I can also filter and access the customer verbatims themselves. And I found that to be one of the most useful aspects because it actually puts context and understanding, attaches that to a number. And it's very powerful when you're sitting with a consultant and coaching them if you can actually show the verbatim feedback from the customer that they've just spoken to. In addition to all of that, and certainly this is an attribute of a more mature voice of customer program, but one aspect that is crucially important is to integrate your operational data with your survey data or your voice of customer data. And that really allows you then to start making sure your strategic in-channel investment decisions are aligned to what your customer expectations are. So, for example, it will allow you to look at the impact or the influence of various average speed to answers on NPS and effort and trust, so that you can optimize your workforce and optimize your resourcing, so you're not over investing in speed to answer, and you're also not under investing in speed to answer. And that's just one example. You can use that across really any of the service levers that you would have in a contact center. Lastly, absolutely make sure you have in place a closed feedback loop. And if you do this right, you can actually capture customer issues before they turn into complaints. At RACQ, the closed feedback loop is managed by a central CX team, but accountability for calling customers to resolve particular issues they've raised in the voice of customer survey is actually the responsibility of the line manager, or in this case, the contact center manager. And if you are a small business out there thinking all of this sounds expensive, there are a bunch of free or very inexpensive survey platforms and templates and standards that you actually can use to implement this in a fairly cost-effective way. So that's a whole bunch of theory. I thought I might share a couple of specific case studies with you. So the first case study I have is, we call it MXM, Member Experience Management. And it's really a single unified approach to managing member engagements in human-assisted channels, although it is also applicable to digital channels, which allows the organisation to design and deliver member experience based on a much deeper understanding of your customers' expectations, providing that consistent and target experience. And I think what I really like about this model is it balances against, you've got the feedback that your customer has provided you through your voice of customer program, and it allows you to have a second assessment of that interaction, and potentially, say for example, with an organisation like RACQ, look to remove the brand bias from that as well, if that some of that brand halo effect is there. And then this is fed, you can see there's a whole bunch of detailed attributes that our member quality team will look at when they're assessing a call, and they do this in addition to compliance and risk measures. These are all aligned back up to our experience principles, experience pillars of ease, trust, and empathy. And what that means is when a contact centre leader is sitting down with a consultant and having a coaching conversation, it's balanced and holistic. So we'll look at compliance and risk attributes, as well as the soft skills in delivering on ease, trust, and empathy. The example I have here is for claims click-to-chat conversations. We have similar templates across all of our various contact centres and tailored to whether or not that's a voice call or a chat call. Second case study, click-to-chat. So about 12 months ago, we did some work and we identified that satisfaction with our click-to-chat channel was much lower than in the voice channel. Now, it's the same people having those conversations with members. which really led us to investigate what was causing that huge difference in the conversation. And as we started to unpack it, we could see that the training and coaching that had been provided to staff for a chat conversation was the same as a voice conversation. Now, anyone who's used Click to Chat before knows that it's very, very different. A chat conversation is extremely different to a voice conversation. It's far more prone to misinterpretation of what's being said, and the ability to speak concisely and without jargon is far more important in chat as well. So we really started to look at contextually, recognizing that chat is quite different to voice. What does a great chat call look like? We define those key elements, link back to ease, trust, and empathy. Developed our QA scorecard so that we could measure that in channel, and then developed a set of coaching and training programs for staff so that they were better equipped to have these conversations with our members in that channel. Within a month of rolling out the change program, our satisfaction had increased from below 60% to above 80%. A result we were all very pleased with. Our last case study I wanted to share was some work we have been doing with piloting chatbots. So we are currently piloting chatbots in our assistance contact centre. So this is a contact centre that takes your call when you've broken down at home or on the side of the road and you need service from a patrol. Our pilot is really starting with people who are calling us from home. And we've started there because people who are calling us when they're broken down from home are generally in a safe situation, and of course we know where they are as well, which makes it a little bit easy for testing new technology. So in terms of the chatbots, we're quite targeted in how we started to use the chatbots with a very small number of members to start with. We spoke to a number of members after they had used the chatbot as part of their roadside assistance experience. And overall sentiment for using the automated bot was actually, it was neutral to positive, but we were clearly looking to push that so that it was generally all positive and less neutral there, and certainly remove the negative. Some of the positives that our members told us about through using the chatbot was they thought that it was very efficient, very quick service, very simple call. It reduced time in phone and in the queue. It was very easy to follow. The bot knew where they lived, of course, and that made it very simple for the member. They didn't have to hand over that, they didn't have to communicate that information. So it demonstrated that we knew them and who they were. And members were actually quite pleased that we were keeping up with new technology as well. Did identify a number of opportunities though, and you'll see that these link back to the experience principles. So our members didn't have the same trust in the bot that they had in speaking to a human. So one of the design changes we made was to include a short message to our members to indicate that the booking was completed and to provide them with surety that a patrol would be out to see them. We also look to provide our members with confidence of when the patrol would be arriving, also looking to build that trust into the interaction. And we've given our members an option to speak to an operator at any point in the conversation if it's not working as the members expect it to do with the bot. So you can see that through using our voice of customer data, we've been able to really quickly iterate and continuously improve our chatbot experience so that it does align to what our members want, to keep it easy, build trust in that, and build trust into that interaction. All right, so I guess in summing up, for me, the kind of key learnings are really that you need to have a clear organisation-wide or brand-wide, depending on how your company is structured, clear organisation-wide CX vision, that sets the guardrails for what a good customer experience looks like and aligns your organizational goals to your customer goals. You need to implement the right measures so that you can monitor and improve iteratively. Don't wait for a big bang project that's going to cost millions of dollars. Get into a culture of innovating and improving on an iterative basis. Definitely integrate your operational data with your survey data, and that will be the biggest single thing you can do that will really help you focus in your investment decisions on those areas that are most important to your members and will give the best returns to you as an organisation. And allow your customer insights to inform your investment decisions. Thank you all for your time. Sorry again that I couldn't be with you in person, but I do hope that you've had a wonderful conference, and I look forward to seeing you in person next time. Thank you.